Hello and welcome back to another episode of D&D 5e Adventures. My name is Saiken and today we are continuing with our D&D solo adventures. This is the second adventure that we're playing through. It's called Tyrant of Sential Keep, and we are continuing with our beloved character Siphon, the former Warforged cleric who served in a war, unfortunately being responsible for the death of many of his comrades, and then resigning from his army duties to live a life of insight in the name of Bokop, the god of magic. In the Forgotten Realms, it could also be Mystra. Anyways, to recap what we have done in the past, we ventured in the last adventure, and this is spoiler alert, of course. If you want to watch it, pause now and watch the 3 episodes. We ventured through Orthil, an old town, and helped a old but rich merchant that wanted to get his son back. We successfully did that. We're now not only richer, but also wiser. We're level 3. Siphon is a Warforged Cleric 1, Wizard 2. And in between, in the downtime, I leveled up according to Tyrant Sential Keep, the highlights of which are we've now acquired a suit of adamantine half armor. We're still bad at stealthing, but we are at least immune to critical hits. We added a wand of magic missiles that will allow us to more continuously dish out damage without giving out our spell slots. We added a shield +1 and 2 pearls of power. If you wonder, you got quite a bit of loot in the last adventure, and we are now rocking 26 hit points and 21 armor class. So that's as much as the stats go. If that doesn't mean a whole lot to you, don't be afraid. I will be doing all of the quote-unquote DMing and just running through it. You don't really need to worry about a whole lot. So today's adventure is going to be Tyrant of the Sential Keep, and I'll just give a few minor disclaimers. It is a more sandboxy adventure, at least the adventure said that so far. I don't know it. And it gives you quite a few side quests as an option, which means at points we might divert into a little bit of exploration. It also mentioned that it is quite hard, so there is a realistic chance that Siphon the Warforged might not make it towards the end of this adventure, and it takes place in one of my absolute favorite locations. The Anarok Desert. At least that's what I read from the first 2 small introductory sentences. For those of you who are unaware of this place, I'll just give it a small background because it is such an interesting place. The Anarok Desert was long but forgotten. The kingdom of the Netherine. The Netherine were incredibly powerful wizards in their own rights. They were so powerful that they basically chopped off mountains, turned them around, and then made flying cities out of them, hovering the sky over the Anarok Desert. Unfortunately, a power and cast a spell-hungry species of extraterrestrial or extraplanar beings, should I rather say, was trying to invade their kingdom, and all of a sudden, in that fight, the magic that they have been using was reaching a climax and essentially evaporated. All of the cities but one fell to their ground, and thousands upon thousands upon thousands died, leaving only shattered ruins behind. I won't go too deep into the lore of the Anarok Desert, but it is a phenomenal place, and I am super thrilled to hear that this adventure takes place here. Enough introduction. Let's jump right into the adventure, shall we? Let's go.
You wander far. At some point as you cross the Anarok Desert, the year changes to 1350 DR. Halfway through the century, and certainly the end of a momentous decade for Faerun. So much happened. The departure of the elves from Cormothor, The rise of the Witch King Zenji in Mara and Vasa at the end of the Age of Humanity itself. But these things are far from your mind as you toil across the dry, wasted landscape of Netheril, heading east, sometimes northeast, as the wind takes you. But then again, not heading anywhere really, just walking. You have seen much already, and for a while you have the feeling that shadows are on your tail. So you keep walking, trudging on until your weight of these shadows begins to lift. As you cross the Anaruk, several days at time pass when you see not a soul. You embrace the solitude and spend that time talking aloud to yourself about everything you've encountered and everything you have learned so far in your life. Many realizations crystallize during your crossing of Anaruk, but soon enough you begin to crave the company of another being. Any friendly humanoid, really. As your supplies start to run out, your solitude becomes a threat to your survival. On the third day, after your water skin runs dry, you see a dot, no, several small dots on the horizon, traveling towards you, oscillating like specters across the dry, hot distance. Your spirits lift. You are saved from dying by thirst, which we really wouldn't be because we're warforged, but let's assume the systems overheat. So by traveling caravan consisting of several friendly half-orc families approach you, who are running from the shadows of their own, it seems. They tell you a tale of persecution in the lands that you are about to enter. They speak of tyrants, powerful despots, and secret networks. The word Zenitarim is mentioned a couple of times, usually in conjunction with the name Monsoon, which makes you wait for a moment. The option of turning south or avoiding what lies ahead becomes a real opportunity. That, though, enters your mind just for a breath, following which you chide yourself that you shouldn't be a coward. No. Ever since you set onto this journey, you were resolved to simply keep walking in the direction you had chosen, and now your resolve is firmer than ever. Whatever crosses your path, you will deal with it, as you always have, with a keen instinct and prejudice still in combat. You say goodbye to the caravan and continue. Slowly, civilization, or at least what remains of it, begins to emerge from the shifting sands. The ruins of the Netherine spires and the plain of the standing stones bear witness to the great civilization that once prospered here, when great cities hovered about the desert floor. The great floating city of Tul Tan Thar, now lost somewhere in the shadow plain, was the greatest of these. You walk on and wonder to yourself if this desert has an ending, when slowly the landscape begins to change. Endless sands giving away to the grassy hills the color of wheat. Then, suddenly, as if springing from the landscape itself, a great emerald forest rises in front of you. You enter the border forest, continuing east, and after 2 days of peaceful travel, through its green depth you emerge, seeing before you a river winding its way through a pristine landscape towards a huge inland body of water. A locked sea, the Moon Sea to be precise. You'd always known it was here, but nothing had prepared you for its grandeur. You walk following the river Tesh, and traffic on the road picks up. You see numerous farms dotting the landscape, and on the faces of these simple folk you read the lines of worry, or hardship and oppression, in stark contrast to the beauty of the lands you travel through. After 3 days, you reach a town called Teshwave, where you spend the night and replenish your supplies. And can't help but noticing that these people, despite the beauty and grandeur of the inland realm, look harassed, exhausted, ill-treated. Over ale, you listen to whispered conversations. You hear names spoken in bitter tones: Manchu, Vizul, Sememan. An old merchant enjoys your company so much that he buys you several drinks and gives you a thorough rundown on the geography on the lands. Later on, in your room, you go over his description in your head several times and cement the local geography in place. The next day dawns, and grey and gloomy weather. As you depart Teshwire, you make your way towards the next city, the name of which you learned the night before. It is Senthil Keep. It takes you 3 more days to reach Senthil Keep, and as you approach you see ruins dotting the landscape, dimly lit. In the evening light, it appears this was once the scene of a major conflict. You even notice what appears to be a scorching of dragon fire. Long, dark grey streaks running at the length of the ruined buildings and roadways. Then suddenly, the granite walls of Thensil Keep rise before you, banners flying, the guards manning their battlements. Right from your first sign of Senthil Keep, you see that it is not really a beautiful city, but rather built to withstand a battle. It has a grim, imposing look to it. Dusk slowly turns to evening as you descend further towards the town. You descend further from the north down the long slope towards the fortified town. Just before dipping below the horizon, the sun emerges from between a gap in the clouds, spreading a warm golden light over the landscape. The broad river, Tesh, lies like a vein of gold running through the stone. Winds its way towards the moon sea, some 15 miles to the east. You sense, strongly, that something awaits you within these tall, weathered walls. Some quest or task, for better or worse. You stride up to the guards, who man the gates at the evening and are warily.
All right, let's shortly talk about the travel that was incredibly well described, and I tried to keep up with all of the imagery. So we were actually walking through the Anarug Desert and then came from the west here alongside the river of Tesh, which is a big one. The Moonsea itself is an interesting location. I was hoping we would see the Netherine ruins, but a level 3 character has actually no business other than crossing the desert, and even that is difficult. So we arrived at Senthil Keep, right? Which is right here on the edge of the Moon Sea. You can't see my mouse cursor, but it is on the left side of the Moon Sea. There are plenty of other towns, and the Moon Sea is an interesting location. I won't spoil too much, but we are near what's called the Dragon Spine Mountains, and towards the west there is Teshwave, and then towards the south there is Yularsh, which may or may not become relevant. For now, Thensil Keep is something that will be interesting. So, let's go and rejoin the adventure.
4 staunch-looking warriors guard the entrance to the city of Senthil Keep.
Welcome to Senthil Keep, the leader says gruffly. State your business. Just traveling through, you reply. He grunts, surveying you from head to toe. Well, mind your step then, traveler. Obey Manchun's edicts and stay out of trouble, and you will be fine. You nod to the guards and walk past them. Through the gates, the streets on the other side lead directly into the heart of the city, and not far off you can see a market square, where merchants are packing up their tents as trade ends for the day. A quick look around reveals a city that is not exactly dirty, but definitely in the need of a spruce up. Buildings are thick wood structures or older stone effigies, damaged in places but what looks like the scars of battle. Cobble is poorly maintained and there are potholes here and there. The overall impression is of once proud city that has taken a few too many knocks. The citizens look like they've taken a beating too. Slumping around, not exactly full of joy. Like many others you have seen in this expensive valley, they look bow-beaten, harassed, and at the end of their tether. On both sides of the street, you see businesses shutting up, shops and owners that are heading home. The only establishment still open is a tavern to your right. The sign hung about the door is stating the name The Scoundrel's Tankard. Just your sort of place. Further down the street, you see a man standing on a crate with a large crowd gathering around him. He appears to be delivering some kind of sermon, although it is hard to make out what he is saying over the noise of carts clattering past you. You feel a tiny drop of rain on your back of the hand and look up to the low gray clouds threatening to downpour. All right, we have the option to either listen to the man's sermon, or we could go into the tavern, or we can look for an inn. I think we're actually going to the tavern. That seems like a nice place to go. So let's go there next. All right, so we make it into the tavern. I prepared the tavern map. Place your token at the bottom of the map, which I imagine Siphon is just coming into the room. And look at the entries numbered on the map. 18 over here. There appears to be a dice game going. 54. The bar where a halfling pours drinks. 189. Over on the east wall are various posters that look interesting. 205. You could sit here and try to listen to a couple of conversations. Let's do the natural thing, which is going in and listening to a few conversations. You plonk yourself down in a seat over at the corner. Right over here. Paranoid as always, we want to see most of the room. And you try to bend your ear towards some conversations that are going on. At a nearby table, an old dwarf is talking to a human woman. He appears grumpy and she's distraught. You listen in on their conversations.
Aye, what if I never get her back? I don't think I'll be able to go on if...
He cuts her off.
Listen, lass, we'll find you a wee girl, all right? I've got a pretty idea about where we might have taken her, and we'll go to look tonight.
But
What if they're keeping her locked up again, guarded, and how are we going to fight them off? You've only got one leg. You glance down and see she's telling the truth. The dwarf indeed only has one leg. The warrior shakes his head defiantly. You have little faith less. My arms are fine. And besides, have you seen me through many battles? I will get your daughter back, or I will try trying. But that's no good to me, isn't it? The woman wails. If you die, she's pretty much lost forever. Do you want to help these people by offering your services? Or you could go back, or if you want to put your name forward to pit about that there is still time. Well, I mean, that's an interesting thought. We can always go back to them, all right? So let's see what else on the table. We're going kind of over here, struggling towards the interesting posters. There are numerous posters on the wall, advertising all sorts of things, but two of them in particular cast your eye. One reads, Orc Amnesty. All orcs will report to have compulsory identification papers issued the third day of the first 10-day of Keerthorn at the guard temple of Bane. This is to distinguish those who are legitimate citizens of Senthil Keep from those who may be spies acting for Gaust, the four-armed orcish warlock currently marching on the citadel of Raven. Alright, so, I mean, apparently there's Gaust. That sounds like fun. I like orcs. And the second one reads, Spectral terror in the South City. All residents within the South City are advised to be indoors after dusk. Terrible spectre has been sighted amongst the ruins at night. It has already killed 3 people and kidnapped 4 more. It is described as having an upper half covered in armor and an ethereal green vapor tailing its lower half. Those who have seen the armored spectre have uniformly reported that it wears a large helmet sporting long thorns. The Senthilar captain and the guard are offering a generous reward of 300 gold pieces to the brave soul who can find the armored spectre amongst the ruins of South City, kill it, and deliver its black horned helmet to the Senthilar Balrax. Several Senthilars have already tried and failed. No questions asked. Alright, so that is difficult. So it says here, if you're interested in investigating the spectre threat and claiming the reward, you think for yourself that tomorrow night, after you've rested and explored the city, will be an ideal time. Okay. Then so suddenly you are reading, you feel a strong shove in your back. I'll get out of the way, someone shouts as they push you. There's a massive crash, and then you turn to see a chair splitting into pieces over the head of an orc. Get out, savage, the attacker, a human shouts. Another thug, the one that pushed past you, joins the fray. And the orc, who appears to have been sitting there minding his own business, is on the ground, having living daysight beaten out of him. We're not going to involve ourselves. It offers you following options. Do you want to involve yourself in this fight? Going to aid the orc? If so, go to an entry. To try your hand in the pit combat against Crom Daggerfist, do that, or leave and go look for an inn or return to the map. Listen, I mean, for now, I'm just trying to see what's going on. I haven't even seen a pit fight here. That is news, but I'm not even 100% sure why there is a pit fight to begin with. So that comes a bit out of nowhere. I have taken the liberty to just illustrate that we do have three leads. One is helping that poor lady with their lost sister. Another one is going and investigating the orcs. Clearly, the warlord is a bigger thing. And then there's pretty straightforward, like little thing where we can go and fight a specter. Let's listen to the bar because that is still an opening. The halfling tends to the bar, darting back and forth as he provides cinder, ale, and hot pies to his customers. A halfling woman, his wife perhaps, takes payment for food and drink. You watch them for a while, marveling about the intricacy dance that they perform effortlessly. The male half-orc, over 6 feet tall, approaches. "Barkeep!" he cries in a merry tone. "Race." The halfling turns and looks at him contemptuously. "You'll pipe down and wait for your turn, laddie, if you know what's good for you." Everybody's treating the orcs really badly. The half-orc is taken a bit back at this, but doesn't protest. You hear him mumble under his breath, "Downright bloody root. That's it. Bloody root." Your ear is interrupted by a loud announcement. 10 minutes, friends, till the pit's about. Get your drinks and move downstairs, and we shall have us a show. Still taking challengers for the third bout as well, against Dwarf Crom Daggerfist. Here in the corner is 150 gold purse for your bouts. After hearing this, a few counters drift towards the stairs, but everyone else is going back to the drinks. It appears that there are no challengers right now, and we still have 10 minutes, so I'll put that in as an option. So we end up with 4 options for us right here. We can either immediately help the dwarf, we can go out and go for the orcs. I think that's a longer mission. Then there is a specter, and then there's a pit fight. I believe the pit fight takes almost no time, so I would definitely like to participate in it. And I am inclined to go and hunt the specter, but the dwarf seems to have a rather kind of urgent mission, which we could do even before the specter. So trying to optimize and do all things in the right order. Let's start with the pit fight, and that is what we're going to do in the next episode. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you all in episode number 2.